Hello and a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us for this news update of KTN Prime online. Remember, you can stream on www.ktnkenya.tv. Great to have you joining me. I'm Nancy Kachingira. Well, let's get started by talking about KCSE results. Now, over 400,000 secondary school candidates who sat last year's Form 4 examinations will know their results next week, Tuesday. Education Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi is expected to release the results in Nairobi. Candidates will then be able to get their results by sending their index numbers to the number 22252. Now, the release of the results will, however, not feature the top-performing candidates or schools because of the ban on schools and candidates ranking. The directive by the ministry to ban ranking has elicited heated debate, with teachers' unions and private schools arguing that it could lead to a drop in education standards in the country. Kaimenyi implemented the directive December last year during the release of 2014 KCPE. Let's continue to talk about education. The Kenya National Union of Teachers has opposed Education Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi's directive to secondary schools to implement the fee guidelines given by his ministry. NUT wants the Education CS to rethink the directive and convene a meeting of stakeholders who manage schools to avert a likely crisis. Now, in a letter addressed to Kaimenyi, NUT says that the directive will plunge schools into an unprecedented management crisis. NUT Secretary General says the new directive requires all schools to convene a board of management meetings to work out their budgets afresh and scale down drastically services to students, which they say is unworkable. Now, the teachers' union cautioned that the current rates recommended shall only apply once certain conditions are first met, and these were identified as the cause of rising costs. Education CS Jacob Kaimenyi has maintained that the secondary school fees guideline was arrived at after an inclusive consultation, and that it would be spread across the 3 terms at a 50-30-20 ratio. Now, the new guidelines recommend that secondary school students will pay 9,374 shillings for day schooling and 53,553 shillings for boarding per year, while schools for special needs would pay 37,210 shillings. Move to a story that has caused quite a stir. In the last couple of days, Constituency Development Fund trailblazer Nyandarua Senator Muriuki Karue has faulted the High Court ruling that set stage for winding up of the development fund. The senator, who conceived the CDF idea, says that the fund has helped develop many parts of the country and should be upheld. Karue wants the controversial sections in the CDF Act 2013 amended to align the Act to the Constitution.
I would like to call upon parliamentarians to look at this, first of all to accept that a ruling has been done, and to look at it carefully so that we now can see what is it that we need to amend. Even if it means revisiting the Constitution, for me is neither here nor there, but I believe we can do it through the law itself so that CDF can continue doing the good work it has done. If anything, my motion way back in the year 2000, 1999-2000, was for 5% of the government revenue to go to the CDF. It was toned down to 2.5% by the then Minister for Finance, Okemo, with the argument that it is better to start slightly lower so that when people get used to it and the systems are set in place, we can then increase to my original request, which was 5%. I think that should be done now.
Well, as that debate continues, Uasin Gishu County is the latest beneficiary of a mobile clinic donated by First Lady Margaret Kenyatta towards her Beyond Zero campaign initiative in reducing mortality rates. Now, this donation comes ahead of the planned First Lady half marathon, which is to be staged in Nairobi on the 8th of March in a bid to raise funds towards the initiative. The clinic, which she donated with the support of Bank of Africa, is expected to boost health services in the entire Uasin Gishu County and beyond. The First Lady took the opportunity while launching the 20th mobile clinic in the country to challenge counties to adopt modalities, including sporting and other community events, to raise funds towards reduction of child and mother mortality cases. She also expressed the need for a multi-sectoral approach towards the reduction of maternal deaths and spread of diseases. Mrs. Kenyatta, while noting that Uasin Gishu is currently ranked 33rd in the country among regions with the highest number of persons living with HIV and AIDS, said that the mobile clinic will be ideal in reaching out to those in rural areas.
We will soon cross the midpoint of our journey, but what's important to us is that these clinics make a difference in saving the lives of mothers and children who would normally not have access to medical care.
And President Uhuru Kenyatta has today left the country for Algiers in Algeria for a 3-day state visit. The visit comes after Kenya recently opened a resident mission in Algiers and posted Ambassador Moi Lemoshira to promote diplomatic relations between the two countries. Relations between Kenya and Algeria, which cover a wide sphere of bilateral, continental and global issues, have been growing from strength to strength. President Kenyatta's state visit is a step towards boosting ties between the two countries. While in Algiers, President Kenyatta will hold talks with his host, President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. He will also meet the Prime Minister, Abdelmalek Salal, and the Speaker of the People's National Assembly, Mohamed Larbi Ould Khalifa. Under joint pacts, Kenya and Algeria have agreed to develop economic, technological and political areas, as well as channels of consolidating the two countries' relations. Now, more than 100 Ethiopian immigrants were arraigned in court today for being in the country illegally. The men, believed to be headed for South Africa, were arrested on Monday night at a house in Tasia, Embakasi area. Officers from the Special Crimes Prevention Unit are believed to have also nabbed 3 Kenyans alleged to have been hosting the aliens. The case, however, could not commence because the suspects could not understand English and a translator hadn't been provided. Makadara resident magistrate Victor Wahumile pushed the case to Wednesday. Police say that they were tipped by an informer that the immigrants had arrived on Monday morning in separate buses. And over the years, thousands of students have been streaming into Nyeri County to mark the Scouts Founders Day celebrations. This has injected good revenue into businesses in the county, as it has also been a major tourist attraction site. This year, however, there have been major changes, as only 500 students turned up, as opposed to thousands of students during previous years. The celebrations have been devolved to the 47 counties, and now Scouts all over the country will hold the celebrations in their different counties. Carol Nderi has more on that story.
A majority of residents in Nyeri County are an unhappy lot. Many businessmen and women are reeling from the low returns over the weekend during the Scouts Founders Day celebrations. This has not always been the case. At a time like this, thousands of students swarming in the streets of Nyeri has been the norm in previous years. This translates into a heavy boost in business sales. This year, however, celebrations to mark the Scouts Founders Day, Lord Baden-Powell, were held in individual counties after an announcement was made by the movement that the services will now henceforth be devolved.
Ukiangalia Scouts hakuweza kuja kwa wingi, alafu tena sasa wale maneno ilisemekana ati wanaenda kwa county, wale wanakuja ni wachache.
Ukilinganisha na ile ya last year ilikuwa afadhali kuliko ya leo. Ya leo ni kugumu sana.
Last year kulikuwa kuzuri, kama sasa tulikuwa tumeuza like 20,000, lakini sasa ni kidogo sana, hata hatuwezi taja.
The Minister for Education in the Nyeri County Government, Elijah Nguyo, was unhappy about the new development, saying it was prudent for the Nyeri County Government to be consulted by the National Scouts movement over the changes. Not only has it affected businesses in Nyeri, but the Founders Day celebrations has been a source of pride for the county and a huge tourist attraction site.
You know, scouting at Nyeri is like the Mount Kenya we have here, which cannot be removed. in the same way it was the will of Lord Baden-Powell that he left here. It was the will of the Lord Baden-Powell that he lived here. So those are things that cannot change, and with those policies, we are going to address them as Nyeri County and market this opportunity.
However, the movement on its part said that the new decision was arrived at after consultations with top stakeholders.
From this year, we decided that founderies will be held in every county.
It was then decided that select teams of few students from representative counties will be the ones to visit Lord Baden-Powell's grave in Nyeri County. Thousands of students streaming into Nyeri County for the Scouts celebrations is seemingly now a thing of the past.
Let's talk business now. Plans to start construction of the country's largest coal plant appear to be on course, with the project developer Lamu Power announcing a September start date. The proposed multi-billion shilling Lamu coal plant is expected to add an additional 980 megawatts to the national grid. So far, funding of the project has been secured, but what now hangs in the balance is the completion of an environmental impact assessment report that could decide the fate of the project. Abby Agina reports on the impact of having a coal plant and what it would mean for Kenya's growth agenda.
The Lamu coal power plant is tipped to be one of the region's largest plants, with the capacity to deliver well over 900 megawatts of power that will be timely in powering the country's massive growth agenda. Kenya's current installed capacity stands at about 2,173 megawatts against a projected demand of 5,359 megawatts by 2030. The proposed plant, estimated to cost about 300 billion shillings, could be a major game changer in Kenya's quest to becoming an industrialized economy. Lamu Power, which is the special purpose vehicle created by the consortium led by the Gulf Energy and Centum Investments to spearhead the project, is optimistic about delivering the plant on time.
The timelines are 21 months construction period, so we are in the development phase as we begin, as we speak. We have given a program to the government in line with the procurement, that we expect to finish all our development work by June 30th. And here I will say subject to governmental part, isn't it? Subject to land, subject to all these things. So then by September 30th construction can begin, 30th of this year.
If delivered on schedule, the plant could see Kenya join the ranks of countries that have attractive power tariffs. Power from the plant will retail at 7.5 US cents per kilowatt hour, loosely translating to about 630 shillings. That is way in line with the prevailing global market rates.
We are now, we're expecting to be slightly below $2 billion. It's a 75-25 debt to equity ratio. 75 to 25 debt to equity ratio. So you're talking about debt being around 1.4 something, just slightly above $1.4 billion, and equity being the rest. So debt is coming from ICBC, the Industrial Credit and Commercial Bank of China, and the balance is coming from the local lenders. We already have term sheets. We have signed the one with ICBC, 1.2 billion, and the other one for 200. We are actually negotiating it with one of the banks. So debt is not an issue. Funding actually we think is in place.
The plant, which is to be built on an 800-acre piece of land, in essence could see Kenya raise its profile as a cheap manufacturing destination, a status that is critical for growing exports. Coal power plants in Africa are a new phenomena, with South Africa having some of the largest coal plants. Kenya's coal plant will in its initial stages rely on coal from South Africa to run the plant, with plans to start exploration of coal in the Mui Basin in eastern Kenya currently ongoing.
We have designed our plant to be able to run on the coal that actually will come from Kitui all the way to the South African coal, and we're comfortable that this should not be a problem.
Renewable energy continues to remain a key focus for the Kenya government, as envisioned in the Jubilee administration power generation plan. The ambitious plan seeks to have 5,000 megawatts added to the national grid by 2016. Renewable energy sources are still undertapped, with the biggest contributor of renewables currently being geothermal, respectively followed by wind and solar energy, whereas hydropower still is the dominant power source. Abiagina, KTN Business.
In a bid to position itself as the nerve center of the East African community and a gateway into the greater East Africa, the government is planning to start construction of the mammoth Lamu Port Southern Sudan Ethiopia Transport or LAPSSET corridor project next month. The project, which covers Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan and Uganda, will cost a whopping 2.7 trillion shillings and will open new trading frontiers for business people in the country. But financial service providers say that small and medium-sized enterprises might miss out on the boom owing to their limited capacity and overall lack of preparedness. In a forum hosted by AIB Capital experts, it was said that SMEs needed to prepare for the deluge by expanding their capacity and skills and embracing professionalism in the management of their enterprises. The state anticipates that the LAPSSET corridor program will help the country realize its goal of being a stronger middle-income economy by the year 2030.
We are going to issue $54 billion of tenders in the next 12 months. Are those tenders going to go to you? Are you prepared to take up tenders of that nature? This is why we are beginning this conversation.
Sad a bit when I see Helios, for example, selling half of their equity shares and they've doubled their money in 7 years or something like that. But the unfortunate thing is that the investors behind Helios are not Kenyans. The investors behind Helios are the DFIs, American pension funds. Those are the guys who are making the money. We just say, oh, equity has grown big, but the guys who are making the money out of us, because we are the ones who back the equity, the money goes back to America.
Our job is to give capital to entrepreneurs so that they may be able to build the dreams and take advantage of the opportunities that Africa.
We portray ourselves as the SME advisor. I mean, most investment bank would target the large ticket transactions, but we feel that SME, being the engine of growth, actually deserve professional advice, and we want to play in that market. So we feel we are a niche player and we focus more on the SME. So
you're watching KTN Prime, the online edition, that is. And don't forget to spread the word. You can stream all our bulletins live at www.ktnkenya.tv. So there's a bulletin at 1 p.m., at 4 p.m., at 7 p.m., and this one at 8 p.m. So don't forget to spread the word. You can also tweet us. Let us know that you're watching at KTN News Kenya, or you can visit our Facebook page as well, KTN News Kenya. Once again, that URL is www.ktnkenya.tv. Go ahead and spread the word, and thank you for watching. Now let's go to sports news this evening and find out what's happening there. For many years, Kenya has been a regular participant at the International Cricket Council World Cup. This year, however, Kenya is spectating as the world's finest countries take each other on in Australia and New Zealand. But amid the falling standard of the sport in Kenya, 18-year-old Daisy Wairimu from Nakuru has fallen in love with this particular sport, thanks in part to the late Emily Ruto, who was, until her demise last year, the captain of the national women's team.
At just 18 years of age, Daisy Wairimu has achieved more than what her seniors may have achieved. Her trophy cabinet is decorated by 6 gold medals and 3 highly coveted trophies in cricket world, consequently making the young girl Kenya's finest growing infields. Regardless of the dwindling standards of cricket in the country, Daisy has been consistent and remains on course to be one of the country's finest female cricketer.
I want to be in the national team permanently. I want to be the best sports lady in the world.
For the last 2 tournaments tukienda South Africa na ingine ilikuwa Uganda, she became the player of the tournament. Now unaweza imagine when you are valuable to become a player of the tournament kwa about 10 to 11 countries, it means you are something. Na imekuwa 2 years in a row. So I think progress yake ikiendelea hivyo, she'll go places.
She plunged into the deep end of the sport in 2012 when she represented Kenya in Uganda before being recruited for the nationals under-19 team. The cricket queen has been impressive in all her international outings thereafter.
If you want to be a sports lady and to like have a life in sports life, you have to be hardworking. And don't let the world control your life.
Watu wengi husema captain lazima kuwe mtu ako mature kwa game, anajua kuhandle vitu, but yeye alishakuwa mature kwa sababu tulimpatia responsibility akiwa mdogo.
For now, Wairimo trains at the Nakuru Sports Club every Saturday. She's also been contracted by several schools within Nakuru County, where she offers coaching and training services on cricket, volleyball and football. With proper nurturing, Kenya could still bounce back to the biggest stage, not only in women's cricket, but also for men.
Now, AFC Leopards Football Club is up in arms over the management of the club that commands a huge following in the country. Some AFC Leopards stakeholders feel that the current office needs to put proper structures in place to ensure that those players' salaries are paid in time and the club returns to its former glory. The stakeholders want to take drastic measures, including calling on a special general meeting to save the club from the current downward trend.
Tumechukua watu wa siasa wako ndani, tumechukua watu wa kufanya biashara yao wako ndani, wako very busy na biashara yao na siasa. Sasa kilabu imebaki kwa mataa. Wachezaji juzi bila mwenzangu wamesema wamekuwa Nakuru, mliona wakikuja kwa fans wakiuliza miezi inaweza peana mshahara, je allowance yetu tutapata na nani?
Vitengo vya kupata pesa kwa hiyo ofisi ambayo imelala, kwa mfano kuna merchandise selling ambayo inafaa ikuwe ina raise pesa za kusaidia club, kuna gate collection ambayo inafaa ikuwe inasaidia wachezaji, kuna membership fee we pay, kuna super sport inatoa pesa. So we wonder where this money is going to. Who is the recipient of this money if it's not our players who are complaining today?
Now, the 2022 FIFA World Cup finals could be staged in November and December and not the traditional month of June to July. A FIFA task force gave those recommendations during a meeting in Doha, Qatar. The meeting was called to discuss a number of options following fears that a summer World Cup would endanger the health of both players and fans due to the heat in Qatar during that period. Task Force Chief Sheikh Salman bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa has also recommended that the 2022 tournament should be shortened by a few days. The discussants did not factor in plans to reduce the size of the tournament from 32 teams or 64 matches. The recommendation is expected to be ratified by the Executive Committee of World Soccer's governing body next month. Some European top leagues had preferred an April to May option to reduce on the disruption to their own domestic programs. Elsewhere, Manuel Pellegrini believes Manchester City are in far better form to take on Barcelona in this season's Champions League than they were when they lost to the same opponents in the competition 12 months ago. The English Premier League title holders defeated Newcastle United 4-2 over the weekend, and if they use the same approach against their Spanish visitors tonight in the Champions League, then Barcelona will be forced to dig deeper. Luis Suarez will be the centre of attraction tonight since he returns to England for the first time since leaving Liverpool in June last year. Barcelona boss has an almost full squad to select from, with only defenders Douglas and Thomas Vermaelen missing. City striker could make his first start for the hosts. The other tie pits Juventus against Borussia Dortmund. Midfielder Arturo Vidal could return from a groin injury for Juventus' Champions League last 16 first leg against Borussia Dortmund. Carlos Tevez will lead the line and will be partnered by either Alvaro Morata or Fernando Llorente. Tonight's matches are the round of 16. Right, now 6 people who were recently nominated by President Uhuru Kenyatta to the Commission of Inquiry into a petition by residents of Makueni seeking dissolution of their county government were today vetted by the Senate. The 6, who were led by their chairman, Mohamed Nyauga, promised to deliver their report to the President on whether the county government should be dissolved or not within 3 months if the government fully facilitates the process. Patrick Amimo tells us more.
Early this month, President Uhuru Kenyatta nominated 6 people to investigate a petition by residents of Makueni County seeking dissolution of their government following persistent leadership wrangles that have crippled delivery of service. The Makueni probe team will be chaired by lawyer Mohamed Nyaoga. Other commissioners are Johnson Kavuludi, who also chairs the National Police Service Commission, Emily Gatuguta, who is a resident of Makueni, Professor Harrison Maitha, who is also a resident of Makueni, Alice Werimu Nderito, who is a human rights activist and conflict management expert, and Taib Ali Taib, who is an advocate and former mayor of Mombasa. The 6 nominees appeared before the Senate's Committee on Devolution for vetting. President Uhuru Kenyatta has given the team 6 months to investigate and deliver a report that will determine the fate of the county government.
This committee, and on behalf of the Senate, thinks that is too long, considering that for about 2 years, Makueni has not been functioning as it ought to be.
We will need to be facilitated. We need to have the right capacity. We don't want to take 5 months trying to get chairs or trying to get this and that for the venue. I think that can impact on the delivery of our work.
It is possible to do the work in under 6 months.
I personally think that we would need about 5 months.
It shouldn't take us more than 3 weeks to do the actual hearings, and it shouldn't take us more than a month to do the actual report, from my experience. But I do not know the administrative methodologies they use to actually get us to start sitting.
The findings of the probe team will set a precedent on how future differences in county governments will be resolved. Should the team recommend suspension of Makueni County government, it will mean Governor Kihudha Kibwana, members of the county assembly and the entire county administration will go home.
It will be fair, transparent, accountable and professional in the discharge of our functions.
Kavuludi's inclusion in the probe team is provided for under the County Government Act as an ex-officio. Would he earn double salary as he joins the team?
You shall be actually getting a benefit as a result of becoming a commissioner. You shall be a full-time commissioner and not an ex-officio commissioner.
If I'm here by dint of my office as the chairperson of the National Police Service Commission, my interpretation is that I'm ex-officio. An ex-officio member of any commission doesn't receive payments. I am not expecting to be paid.
Nominees Alice Nderito and Taib Ali Taib had some pending issues to clear with the taxpayer and the Anti-Corruption Commission respectively.
So I'm really surprised, but I will actually do that. I'll follow up with them.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which indicates that the commission is investigating some matters which you are adversely mentioned.
I'm not aware of the fact that I'm under investigation.
Once the President receives a report on the probe, he'll have 14 days between him and the Senate to decide on the fate of Makueni County government. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
And now you're up to date. That's it for this edition of KTN Prime, the online edition. That is, thank you so much for having joined me. I'm Nasika Chingira, and remember, you can stay up to date with KTN online. We've got our bulletins coming to you live every day at 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m. So let's keep talking. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.